Hey everyone, welcome to the last video of the chapter 8.4. We're talking about volumes of rectangular prisms today. Alright, so what is volume? Volume is really just the amount of space that a three-dimensional figure occupies, okay? And we measure that in cubic units. So if I'm finding the volume of something that's measured in inches, my answer would be inches cubed. If it's centimeters, it'd be centimeters cubed. Meters, it'd be meters cubed. You get the idea. Alright, so we have this prism here, and we're going to calculate the volume of it. It's 7/8 by 5/8 by 1/2, okay? So how do you find the volume of a rectangular prism? Well, the volume is going to be equal to length times the width, and those two things come from the base times the height. So those come from the base. And then the height is pretty self-explanatory. It's the height of the prism. So in this case, our length is going to be 7/8, okay? You could make the case that'd be 5/8, and that'd be fine, but you'd have to flip-flop. So if we're going to call it 7/8, let's just do that. Times the width. The width is going to be the other dimension of the base that is not the length, so it's going to be the 5/8 times the height, which is going to be that 1/2. And then all you have to do is multiply. So these are fractions. So how do we multiply fractions? Multiply across top, across the bottom. Is there anything I can cross cancel though? No. And so when you multiply, 7 times 5 times 1 is 35, and 8 times 8 times 2, well, 8 times 8 is 64. When you take a 64 times 2, that's how you get 128. And so then, in this case, we would be done. And we would say, what's the volume of that rectangular prism? Well, it was all measured in meters, so it would be 35 128 cubic meters, or meters cubed. The volume equals that. And there you go. All right, so let's look at this one here. Is there another name for this prism that I'm showing you here? Well, let's see. It's got a bunch of dots on it. And it's 1, 2, 6. So it looks like, a die, but there's probably another name we can call it as well. And let's draw our attention to what we have in blue here. 3/4 of an inch. And then I've got this little tick mark, and then one there and one there. And what do we remember about those? Well, it means that they're actually the same. Any of the sides that share the tick mark are also going to be 3/4, because this one has a tick mark and it's 3/4. So what would that thing be called? Well, if the length is the same as the width and it is the same as the height, and I guess really technically should put these back here as well. I guess, we kind of assume, but we shouldn't assume. It's a cube, right? So now let's calculate the area of this cube. So how do you find the area of a cube? Well, it's just a rectangular prism, right? So it's like what we've been doing. Volume equals length times width times height. And so what's my length? 3/4 times my width. 3/4 times my height. 3/4. Multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So 3 times 3 is 9, times another 3 we know is 27. And then you got 4 times 4, which is 16, times another 4. So if you need to do that, do it real quick, but you should be able to get 64 pretty quick from that, because it's 32 times 2, and so, over 64. Now, can that be simplified at all? Well, could we cross cancel up here? No, there's nothing cross cancel. So can we simplify our fraction? No. So the volume is 27/64 of an inch cubed, or cubic inches. That's how much space this die takes up. Alright, so we're going to do a little bit of a real life problem here. Maybe your folks have had this done before, but you can get a dump truck to show up at your house and just dump a huge pile of dirt right in your driveway, or mulch, or gravel, or whatever you want. It's really convenient because it beats going to Home Depot and having to lift every single bag up into your car or your truck, or whatever. Now you got to pay for it, and it's probably going to be more expensive than doing it by the bag, but it's really convenient when the truck just shows up to your house and dumps it right there in the driveway. So anyway, let's just say you had a yard of dirt delivered. Now, a yard of dirt is just slang for 1 cubic yard, okay? So you had it delivered to your house for a project. So dirt weighs about 70 pounds per cubic foot. How much does the delivery weigh? Well, let's see. So our picture here shows 1 cubic yard, right? And the problem is that that's like a pile of dirt. You might be thinking, well, it's fine, but it's a little bit hard to measure that, right? I can't like, oh yeah, this is because there's like a little bit of a curve here to that pile, and maybe it goes all the way down to here. Maybe it goes below the pavers. Who knows? But I know a cubic yard. Well, okay, a cubic yard. Let's think about that cube. So all three sides the same. Cubic yard. So hold on. What times what gives me 1? Well, 1. Okay, so what's a cubic yard look like? Well, if you could compress the dirt into a cube, it would look like 1 yard by 1 yard by 1 yard. That's a cubic yard of dirt. Now, when you dump cubic yard of dirt on a driveway, it looks like this because it's loose. It kind of all fans out, whatever. But that's what a cubic yard would look like if you could kind of mold the dirt and form it. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. The problem is how much does it weigh? And they tell us dirt weighs 70 pounds per cubic foot. So I could do the hard thing and try and figure out what 70 pounds per square foot turns into in 70 pounds per cubic yard. But it might actually be easier just to change this because I know that a yard easily converts to what? Feet, okay? So same shape here, just different labels, because instead of 1 yard, we're going to call it what? 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. That's also a cubic yard of dirt, just put in different terms, okay? And so now what we can do is figure out how many cubic feet of dirt was actually delivered. So, well, cubic feet, cube is a prism, so volume of a prism is length times width times height, right? So the volume here is going to be 3 times 3 times 3, and we know 3 times 3 is 9 times another 3. I got 27 cubic feet of dirt delivered. So how much does it weigh? Well, they say that each cubic foot, or 70 pounds per cubic foot, right? So each cubic foot weighs 70 pounds, and I got 27 of those things sitting in my driveway. So just go ahead and take your 70 pounds per cubic foot times the 27, and you'll get your answer. All right, so I went ahead and did the calculation. You should get 1,890 pounds. That's how much that pile of dirt sitting on your driveway weighs. All right, so last problem here. We're going to use the volume formula to find something other than the volume. So we're actually going to use the volume to find a different dimension. So I give you a rectangular prism here. It is 4 centimeters by unknown, or x centimeters, and then it's 6 centimeters tall. They tell us that the volume of this is actually 144 centimeters cubed, but we need to find x. Okay, so let's start with the formula. Always go to the formula. What is the volume formula? Length times width times height. So what is the length? Well, in this case, the length is going to be 4, okay, times the width. Don't know. I'll use the x because I don't know, right? Times the height, which is 6. But the other thing I do know is the v, right? I know what the volume is. They told us it's 144. All right, so how are we going to solve here? Well, it's just a 2-step equation. Remember, commutative property of multiplication says 4 times x times 6 is the same as 4 times 6 times x. All that to say, 4 times 6 is 24, right? So 24x. All right, so all I have to do to get the variable by itself is do the opposite, right? 24x means 24 times x, so I need to divide. How do you break up multiplication? You divide. So 144 divided by 24. So that's kind of easy, right? Because we know 144 divided by 12 would be, well, 12. But it's divided by 24, so it's actually going to be 6. But if you want to kind of check your math, just go ahead and do it. 24 times 6. If you don't trust me, that's 24, and then that's 12, 13, 4. Oh. What do you get? 144. Right. So 6 was correct. That equals x. So what is the missing dimension right there? Well, it's also 6 centimeters. Okay, so that's actually a 4 by 6 by 6 rectangular prism. All right, that is all I have, guys. Thanks for sticking with it. I will see you in class.